What's up, everybody? Welcome to You Rankin with me. I am your host, Chadwick Webb. Over there is my co-host James Tancock, and then, as always, we have here my wife Carrie Webb. Today, we're talking. If you haven't guessed it by things around us right now, background, we're talking the Omen franchise. We were doing a little bit of a thing over on another channel that I do, Carrie and I do, called Welcome to Primetime, that we were watching a couple of the Omen sequels for another thing, and we're like, why not just do the whole Omen franchise? Because I've never seen the sequels, and I haven't seen the remake and stuff like that. So we all got around to watching them, and we did our own individual rankings. And that's actually how the show works. All the panelists made their own rankings. We'll reveal the rankings, lowest ranked first. Top five. No, wait. Let's say top three. It's only 6 movies here. Say wait for it or some other phrase to let us know that you like something a lot more in your top three. And then combined ultimate ranking will be revealed at the end, generally prepared for us by my wife, Carrie Webb, because she's really good at doing that. Yeah, we're really excited to get into this because I know the first movie is one of my wife's favorite movies. So, let's get into talking and see if that's her number one, see if that's all of her number ones, or let's see if there's some surprises today, because I don't know, maybe there are. I think there are other maybe good movies in this franchise. I don't know. Let's see. But we'll go ahead and start with our sixes. My number 6 is Omen 4: The Awakening.
Mine is also Omen for the Awakening.
It's unanimous. Mine is also Omen for the Awakening.
I predicted that.
666.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, 6 movies is perfect. They shouldn't make any more, right? They probably will. Actually, I'm excited to talk about if they are going to make some more, because that could be interesting. But now we can talk about Omen 4: The Awakening, which is a TV movie. I'll go ahead and start with this one real quick and say this one's weird. I don't know. It feels like when you're watching the Omen franchise that you're constantly watching the same movie, even when they try to like make it a little bit different or follow a story. It still feels like you're always following the same kind of beats. And here, I guess it's a little different, but it's about a creepy child. And I feel like you have somewhat like, the adults running around trying to figure out what's going on, but really it's mostly just about creepy stuff happening around this little girl. She's apparently not even the Antichrist, so while she's kind of the focus of a lot of the movie, she's not even the big threat. She's just the caretaker for the big threat. So they couldn't even give her the cool Damien role. They had to make her apparently a little girl who's carrying an embryo of her little brother, which I don't know how that makes sense or works. And it's also really creepy that someone would write that into a script. But that's how it is. I think there's some like cool visuals in it. I think the little girl actress is doing, the best job she can. I don't think she's that bad as like, the evil little girl in the movie. And I think it's actually kind of funny sometimes because it feels like it's trying so hard to be like the original The Omen. And it just feels a lot campy a lot of the times. Also kind of boring, and it was hard to get to the end of this one. So yeah, 6-1. I don't think it's terrible, but I also just don't think it's good. So it is what it is.
Yeah, they managed to do somehow with these movies to keep the storyline, I mean, maybe not great, but at least interesting. Like if I sit down and watch these, I usually watch them all just for that alone. And the casting is usually really good with all these, and they weren't really off with this one either. Plenty of creepy stuff, a lot of like parallel scenes ish to like, the first one or the other ones, but definitely not great at the same time. It is kind of a weird storyline at the end, and we'll have to talk about this a little later, but I was kind of hoping that the first Omen would have tied into this, but no. We'll talk about that later though. But no, don't really like this one that much.
Do you mean the original Omen or the first Omen?
The first Omen, the one from this year or last year.
Yeah, I don't know if it was in there.
Very confusing.
Yeah,
I know.
I don't know if it was in their minds to be like, hey, let's tie this new movie into the TV movie from.
Probably not. It's not the way they wanted to take that, but with like the storyline of having the daughter also at the end of the first Omen, the recent one, I was kind of thinking maybe they would, but they didn't. So whatever. Anyway,
yeah, I can't wait to talk about that movie.
Yeah, like you guys said, it's not great. It's a TV movie, so like I think overall the quality, not that, there could, I think can be good TV movies, but it just doesn't have the budget or anything, and I think it definitely shows, and like yeah, the plot just gets really weird. It's not the worst. Like it's not the worst movie ever, but I don't know if I'd like watch this much more. Like if I was rewatching all of these, I might still skip this one.
Yeah, maybe not the worst movie ever, but it is the worst Omen movie. So now we can move on to our fives. I'd give it a chance. I'd still go and give it a chance just to see if you like it because I don't hate any of these movies to be honest. But yeah, let's go with our fives. My five is Omen 3: The Final Conflict.
that one we can wait for. I put the Omen 2, Damien.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
My number 5 is The Final Conflict.
All right. So two of us did. But we had to wait for it. So we are going to wait for that for a split second. I'm actually thinking about changing something up in my ranking right now, but let's leave that the way it is. And so actually, you know what? I'm going to throw my 4, the Omen remake from 2006.
My number 4 is the Omen 2006 remake.
My number 4 is Damien Omen 2.
All right. And that I actually switched Damien 2 with the remake. So let's do our threes real quick, and we're already at the wait for it's already.
Yeah.
So my number 3 I swapped to be Damien Omen 2. I think those two, like that and the remake, were actually pretty close.
I had the Omen 3 Final Conflict, number 3.
My number 3 is the Omen remake.
All right. It looks like we can talk about the Final Conflict, then Omen 2, and then the remake.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, James, do you want to start with the Final Conflict?
Yeah, so this one, like, it's kind of not bad actually. I enjoy watching like the storyline of this. I think Sam Neill is pretty cool in it. I think a lot of these kind of lose a bit of like kind of the scare factor from the first one just because there's no like creepy kids anymore necessarily, at least in like little kids, at least in 2 and 3. And I still think the overall like premise is kind of cool. Like he's got all these people who are like following him and try to like help him in the end. And I think the fox hunting scene is pretty interesting. I guess the end of it's kind of cool, I suppose. I don't mind the whole like, Jesus imagery in the end. He kind of loses that battle. I do like I said, Sam Neill's pretty cool in this one. I think it's got a pretty interesting storyline for what it is. This one just kind of captures my attention a little more than the other ones.
Fair.
Yeah, I agree definitely, James. Like Sam Neill is really good in this, I think. He's super charismatic and you can like believe that he would actually be liked by a lot of people, and you kind of like he's so charismatic that even though he's evil, you kind of are like not rooting for him, but you're like I guess you're rooting for him to kind of like turn his back on the Antichrist stuff, or like you're at least like engaged with him because he's so interesting. There's I was thinking for most of this movie when we watched it, like I was gonna like it more than like Omen 2. But there's like the last 30, 40 minutes, there's just a lot of baby murder and it's just hard to watch. And I'm like, I would probably rewatch Omen 2 more than the final conflict just because it just gets so heavy and crazy towards the end. And but I think overall it's actually a pretty solid movie.
Yeah, it's interesting the way they continued the Omen. I mean, because we could probably say that the original Omen could have just stayed one movie and didn't have to make sequels. But it's interesting to see how they went from there. And by this point, when he's like a lot older and he's kind of committed himself to becoming the Antichrist and learning how to like influence people and, become powerful like within the government, and I'm sure his plan is to get the highest power, become the president, and just really influence a lot. And I find that really interesting. I find a lot of the religious stuff really interesting. I like like James said, the Jesus part at the end I think was like really cool, and the way that they showed that imagery and like that whole battle. And yeah, I mean, I also agree with Carrie that the baby, the him hunting down the Nazarenes was really rough to watch. It's just one of those things that just seemed like really like miserable. Like you're rooting for people, and then it just got really mean spirited. And I was sitting there like, well, that one baby with the mom and dad, where the dad was like working for him or whatever, and you're like, well, that baby's probably going to get saved at least, and that's like the one that survives. And like, nope, let's kill him, let's kill the mom, the dad, who we don't really care, we're just going to kill everyone. Even this little boy that's helping him, let's kill him too. And just gets like really miserable. Like even if he loses at the end, it just really feels like you don't really have much to root for in this one. But it is really interesting. And also like how it's kind of like, I guess, the Knights Templar or whatever, like they're trying to be, to come and try to strike down the Antichrist with the daggers, the knives, which I feel like they kind of changed, where it was going to be like, you have to stab him with 7, but now it was like you just have to stab him with 1. But like everybody's like, he's either really like really really good, or they're all very incompetent and just kind of like falling from the roof and healing and stuff, and the scaffold, and burning up, and just wild ways that these people end up dying trying to kill the Antichrist. I mean, I like the concept of him having like a Nazarene like adversary, like the light side coming, like Jesus reborn kind of a thing. I find that really interesting, but I just don't feel like they really capitalized on that, where they could have had like a child be born, or a child was already born, and then he has to like, I don't know, maybe not fight a child, but like, the battle of the wills or something like that, or the mind kind of thing. Could have done something like that. But I don't know. I'm trying to rewrite this movie, and I just don't think that the movie that we got was the best version of this. Although I'm still like fascinated by the fact that I enjoyed the Omen sequels to a certain extent, that I don't know if I ever thought I would even watch the Omen sequels. And then, Carrie kind of forced me to watch the Omen sequels, and I actually quite enjoyed them for what they were. So I would definitely watch actually all 3 Omens again. I don't know if I'd be in a rush either to watch Omen 4, but I think at 3 I would watch. I would probably just skip over those parts that Carrie and I kind of winced at. Like, oh no, I don't want to watch this mom, you know, let go of her baby carriage, and then it gets like hit and stuff. And I don't want to watch that. And it was also happened like, right around the same time we watched Pet Cemetery. So it's just a lot of rough like anti-baby movies that we watched.
We
But
did a lot of skipping over stuff.
we did. So yeah, so that's that, and we can move on now to the Omen 2, right?
Yeah, I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I think it wound up being kind of interesting, the struggle of like like preteen, young adolescent Damien, like kind of figuring out that he is actually the Antichrist and struggling with that, and his relationship with his cousin and his aunt and uncle, and like just the decisions he has to make and everything. There's definitely parts of this movie that are like, I don't know, really tangential and kind of boring. But I think overall, like all the stuff with Damien at least was really interesting. Lance Henriksen is in this actually like fairly briefly,
Oh
but like
yeah.
trying to like you
Yep.
realize he's like trying to help Damien discover who he is, and it's a very interesting character. So yeah, I think this is actually like for an Omen sequel, it's actually somewhat solid.
Yeah, when you get to the end of the Omen, I showed a little clip there. Well, maybe that might have made it in. I'm not sure, but at the end, because I don't know if it kind of like, actually sort of backtracks a little bit because I think the whole time for me, Damien in the first one kind of assumes that, or I don't know if he knows what's going on with him, but he's like, afraid of the church and stuff like that. But at the end, towards the end, it kind of really feels like maybe he's not aware, like really fully aware of like what his destiny is supposed to be. And then his dad, tries to kill him and stuff. And then at the end, when he's won, he gets that little smile kind of a deal, which a little boy would only do that if he was happy that his dad just died and whatnot. And then, with this, they go into it where it's kind of a coming of age movie and he's going off to military school and then he finds out his true destiny. And then he's kind of upset about it. And I find that actually really fascinating that they would kind of, I don't know if it's a true retcon, but to have him kind of not really know the full scope of it and then kind of break it down when he realizes and then grow to accept it and then he has to kill his brother and do a lot of like horrible things to further his plans and he decides, hey, I'm going to go on this path that for my destiny. And yeah, I also found that really interesting. I think the kid who played Damien is really good in the movie and a lot of great performances actually I think in the movie. And yeah, I just didn't know that I would like an Omen sequel this much. I mean, it repeats a lot of the same beats that we see in a lot of Omen movies, but I think it's also fair. I mean, he's always going to have like a dog protecting him and stuff like that. So it is what it is. But yeah, I quite liked both uh 2 and 3.
Yeah, the Omen 2's definitely not my favorite of these. I think I just don't really like maybe just the overall like storyline of it. The Omen, the original one's kind of a hard act to follow,
Yeah.
so it just didn't kind of create that on the same level. I think that's why I don't really like mesh with it that well, but it does have my boy Lance Hendrickson in it, so I do like that a little bit there. And it's like kind of cool when the one dude finds out that like his DNA is part jackal and it like kind of cuts him in half with the elevator. Like that's an interesting scene. It's still like he can create peril for those trying to like stop him or prevent him from from doing what he wants. So I wasn't too interested in the whole like bird horror aspect when that crow keeps poking people's eyes out. But that's just, I guess, it's just a different feel from the first one. And again, I hate to compare the two because we're only talking about the second one, but it's kind of a hard act to follow. So I don't think it like hit as well with me. That's all.
They got really Hitchcocky in there with
Yeah,
the
a little
bird.
bit.
All right, and so now we can talk about the Omen remake from 2006. I remember I remember back like shortly after Carrie and I first started dating, this movie was coming out, and I remember Carrie because she was so fond of the original movie, still hadn't seen any other Omen movie at the time, but she was so fond of that one, she was like, "I'm not gonna go see that new Omen movie," kinda like that. There's, like, really, like, a purist, I guess. And now look at her ranking all the Omen movies and, not ranking this one last. So, uh, really interesting there. But I didn't know what to think because there's sometimes where I see horror sequel or horror remakes, And a lot of often I'm very surprised that I don't hate them. Like I didn't really hate the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. And so sometimes I'm surprised by them. I find that I was surprised here. I think at the time when I was watching this, it was after I had watched a lot of the sequels that I was kind of a little bit like over a lot of the seeing the same stuff over and over again, because this franchise is very repetitive. Even though I was watching like the same movie as the original, I felt like it did add a little bit of differences. And I feel like the mother was a little bit more involved. At least, maybe that was my perception, or maybe I just really liked Julia Stiles' performance in the movie. And I also really liked Cotton Weary,
Leaf Schreiber.
Liev Schreiber. Thank you. In the movie. And yeah, I think that kind of, grounded it for me where I was just like really interested in watching the same movie because it had actors that I actually liked and I thought were doing a great job. And I really kind of, felt for them a lot of the times. Like the bombshell that's dropped, when it's like, they killed your baby in order for you to raise this demon, basically, this devil. You really feel that kind of misery with them. So there's some good performances in this. I think it's shot really well. I know Carrie's like, was like, this little kid looks like he's having a lot of fun in this movie. And yeah, I think even the little boy is really good in the movie. Yeah, I don't know. It's a remake. It's kind of the same thing as the original, but just more modern, but definitely inferior, but not as bad as you think.
Yeah, the Omen 2000s, like the remake, I'm trying to like rack my brain, and I shouldn't be because I've like watched all these for this ranking recently, but it's hard for me to like remember what like new things it kind of brings to the scene because it just, for me, like when you get, were you going to say something, Chad?
Oh yeah, I was gonna add, because I do think like the casting is kind of perfect in a lot of these. Because when you
Yeah,
look at like the mirror between them,
for
like
sure.
David Thewlis was like the perfect like photographer guy because he
Mhm.
looks exactly like the guy from the original. And then I was seeing Bogenhagen, uh,
Bugenhagen.
yeah, from the original. You have Dumbledore, Michael Gambon,
Yeah.
and so it's like you got two Harry Potter actors in this too. So I found that really cool to see a lot of like faces that I knew in it and just doing really well. Like David Thewlis, I think was also really good in the movie.
Yeah, they definitely get the casting kind of right for these. Like the actors just like really fit their roles well and do a good job like in them. This one does have my guy Pete Postlethwaite in it too, so I really like that actor. I think he plays the shut in Reverend guy who tries to find him in the beginning. I think that's the role he plays in this one. That's Pete
Oh.
Postlethwaite. I know I've kind of like have a bunch of like guys I've talked about because I got a bunch of like actors I really like. I've talked about like Brad Dourif in a few rankings ago, Tony Todd, but I like Pete Postlethwaite. I like Lance Henriksen too. So it's cool to see all like my actors in these movies. But it's only so good, unfortunately. And I don't think it really like offers much new to it. Although I guess it does get kind of a graphical refresh, if you will. But for 2006, it didn't look terrible. But good performances. I mean, not bad movie by any means, but maybe not great at the same time.
James, that is what this franchise needed was a little dose of Brad Dourif. We did.
They missed out. They
We
missed
need to
Sure
pitch
did.
a new Omen movie with Brad
Hey,
Dourif.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna make another one. I don't know if they're gonna call it the
They
second.
set it up. So
Did. So maybe Brad Dourif will be in there. Maybe he'll be the next Damien, grown up or something.
I could see that. That'd be cool.
yeah, I like Chad said, I was super opposed to this movie when it came out because I was in high school and just, loved to hate on things, but also I love the original movie. And I was like, this is just another unnecessary remake. And, Gregory Peck's not in it. It's never gonna be as good, and it's not as good. But it's also not like the worst. I was actually surprised at how much I was like, okay, this isn't too bad. I mean, mostly it is really the same story. There's not a lot different. Like I think they do give Julia Stiles a little bit more than oh my gosh, what's her name? Lee Remick from the original movie. So that was kind of interesting to see. Mia Farrow as the nanny is pretty
Baylock.
Baylock.
Yeah,
It was
Baylock.
yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was a cool surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I have this one. I guess a little now that I'm thinking about it, like I maybe should have switched it somewhere, but I think I just mostly like that it's the same story with a little bit of like updated visuals and different actors. It's not as bad as I kind of like that they kept the original story though.
Yeah. I don't know where they would have changed it. I think the only thing, because I was into thinking, I was like, how would they have changed it? And I thought maybe, because I mean, they did this recently with the movie we watched, Carrie, called The Damned. Maybe if they had, instead of, Damien being the Antichrist, they could have had it be all in Cotton Weary's head or something like that. That could have been a little bit different and interesting, more of a psychological kind of thing. But I don't know, maybe that would be bad. I don't know. But I was thinking about how could they change it up, and maybe that's one way. But all right, so we can move on to our ones and twos. We all know what movies are in our ones and twos.
Yeah.
But in what order? Are we all gonna have the same order, or is someone gonna have a shock here? But let's find out. I mean, we just think back when James had Scream 3 ranked number 1, so which a lot of people are like, that's my least favorite, and James fucking loved it. So all right, my number 2. It was interesting because I actually swapped. My number 2 is The First Omen.
My number 2 is also The First Omen.
Okay, now we all have the same ranking then. Carrie, what's your number 2?
Yeah, also The First Omen.
All right, and so my number 1 is the original The Omen.
Yep, the original Omen.
Yeah, same.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so now we can talk about these two. The wait for it's were short-lived. You can only do so much in a 6 movie episode, but it's also kind of refreshing when sometimes we have like double that or triple that. Like the time we did Disney, that was insanity, but a lot of fun too. Go check out that episode. This is just one of those things to where I really love The First Omen, and then I rewatched The Omen, and then I was like, oh my god. So it's like I think these two movies are freaking amazing. I think they're very close for me. And so I'm interested to see if they're like close in quality for you guys as well.
Yeah, so I was very surprised by this movie. Like very. I mean the first impression is, oh boy, now they did a prequel. What's this gonna be about? Like, you kinda keeping the bar super low going in, which may have helped it a bit, but it really did surprise me with how, like, I think just obviously with it being current years, it just looks that much better than the other one, so it gets kind of another visual refresh in a sense. I think it looks really good. I think I liked the way that, I mean, of course they looped in the original Omen in the end, because of course that's how it was supposed to end. Like I said earlier, I thought maybe they would try to tie in the girl at the end still being there with the fourth one, but they didn't, so whatever, like that's fine. But they're probably gonna do another one, a sequel of this one. But I thought it was kind of interesting when she finds out they were trying to like birth this person a whole bunch of times. Like that to me was like cooler than I guess I thought it would have been, because I was like, oh, they just cloned her 18 times. But I think they did it in a pretty interesting way. I didn't mind the like kind of seeing like the jackal on fire in the end. I think I will say some of those scenes with her in the crowd and you get like the jackal hand kind of grabbing her, and just the way that they portray that, like when it's impregnating her, like, so that jackal hand was looking a little bit rubbery for 2024. Like that, like a little bit, like, come on guys. You can do a bit better than that. But they do it well with the rest of the movie too. I wasn't necessarily surprised that she was like the other one who they hid the whole time, but it wasn't like a bad way to like do that, or to like to kind of reveal that. I was still into it at that time, so it kind of kept me in. And I like, again, more of my guys, but Charles Dance has a small role in it who I like a lot. Bill Nye, he's pretty cool. He's been in plenty of stuff I like. So they did a really good job again with the casting. I think the actors and actresses did really good jobs with this. I was not too mad at. Of course, they put some jump scares in there because it's current time, so you may as well. But I think they did that pretty well. The scene in the dark room was pretty crazy. I liked how the one girl was troubled. Of course, she tries to help her. You get kind of a nod to the first one. It's all for you, and she hangs herself from the thing, lights herself on fire too. I guess is kind of a cool way to do that. I was just really surprised overall with this, and I think I definitely knew when she went to pick that dude up from the truck that he was definitely she pulled him in half because, like, come on, he's pinned up against that wall. Like, but that's cool enough to me because it kind of gives a nod back to the original one where the dude gets his head sliced off completely. So you still get a little bit of mutilation there. So I think they did that pretty well too. But overall, liked it a lot. Very surprised by it. Very cool movie. Doesn't beat the original though.
Yeah, also thought this is a great movie. It's pretty fun. I think it stays true to like the original film for the most part and like the entire franchise, just with like the style of the kills and the themes and like it's so good that I don't even mind that it kind of retcons a little bit of the rest of the franchise, which is like that Damien was born from a jackal. In this movie, it's like, no, he was born from a woman who was impregnated by a jackal. But it's fine. It makes sense for the movie. It makes for a much more interesting movie than like if we were following a jackal or something. So yeah, Nell Tiger Free is great in this movie. I think the scares are pretty well done. So yeah, overall this is just like a pleasure to watch. It's really fun.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of blown away by this movie, and I watched this movie like after hadn't seen the original Omen for a while, so I didn't really remember like a whole lot of the lore even. But watching this movie, I just found it to be just a really creepy movie. I think that everything that they did just really worked for me. If there was a jump scare, it got me. If there was just a really creepy, like off-putting scene, like the deformed person slowly walking out of the darkness, was one of like the creepiest things I've ever seen. And yeah, like even the woman jumping out of the window on fire, I think that's kind of like shot in such an iconic way that I'm just like, you see that image and you know what movie it's from. It's just super iconic. And yeah, Nell Tiger Free just like knocked it out of the park for me. I feel like 2024 was just such a good year for like uh lady performers in like horror movies and stuff. So Strange Darling and The Substance and stuff like that. And the first Omen just really like Nell Tiger Free, just the way she like contorts herself and just gets possessed by this evil force. And just really blown away by her. I like the arc of the girl that's just kind of in there and just quiet, alone to herself, and then coming in clutch at the end and helping, and then like creating this like little family with Nell Tiger Free's character and the two kids that are born. Or wait, just the daughter. I forget. They take Damien, of course, because they that has to go to the other couple. So yeah, I'm actually fascinated by the way that they chose to end this with new information that you didn't have. That the mom is still out there. And I mean, it's a little bit of a retcon, as Carrie said, but the mom is out there now with the daughter, and kind of a little bit of maybe of the opposite of what James thought it might be with tying into 4. Instead, maybe like she might be some sort of like antithesis to Damien, or some way like they can like stop him or something like that. And then they'll do an Omen like kind of remake, but from the perspective of these main characters that we're following, and Nell Tiger Free and stuff. And yeah, I mean, this is just a modern take on an Omen movie, but just a really cool prequel. And if they can like do stuff like this for like other classic horror films, a lot of the Halloween movies didn't work for me. And when you try to make like a prequel to Halloween and bring it into there, I mean, they haven't really done that. But this is just such a cool way to do something like this. And so yeah, I'm talking a lot about this one just because it was initially my number one until I, rewatched The Omen and was like, no, this one's a stone cold classic. But yeah, I am so excited after the end of this movie to see where it goes. God, yeah, I feel like the first Omen is one that I'm gonna want to rewatch a lot because it's just so cool to watch that performance. Oh, and the opening is just incredible with like the pole comes down. It's kind of like a recreate of like a
Yeah,
kill,
you get a little nod to the first one.
but like the way they do it is
Mhm.
just so cool. It's like something happens and then there's a reaction and then you're like, oh my god, did that just go through him? It's just like so cool. Anyways, was I the last one to talk about this one?
You were, but I'll say one more thing that I just kind of thought of when she hangs herself from that balcony and she's like, "It's all because she kind of mouths, it's all for you." Like knowing at the end that that Nell Tiger Freeze character is the one who they're actually after. Like obviously at that point in the movie, you're focused on the troubled, teenage girl. Like who
Yeah,
was she? Like maybe who was she looking at when she said that? Like maybe she knew
right.
it was actually
Mhm.
no Tiger Freeze character. I'm just food for thought. That's all.
Yeah.
Who is she
Oh,
actually talking
that's
to?
that's a brilliant thing. I mean, there's little things in the movie that you can see, like little threads, like or hints of what's to come. I'm really excited. Let's move on to talk about the original The Omen. All right, Carrie, one of your favorite movies. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. This is one like we had like three horror movies on VHS when I was younger. This was one of them. So I watched this one a lot whenever I wanted to get scared. This was one of my few choices. I don't know. I love this one. Like the acting's phenomenal. That they got like Gregory Peck to do this horror movie is fantastic. I love it. He's giving it like he's giving it his all, I think, in this movie. He's pretty great. Lee Remick is great. Like all the actors really in this are really fantastic. It's just so creepy. The kills are great, like especially for that time period. I don't know. Sometimes they're a little fun. Like you watch that head rolling with the glass, and now it's a little bit. It's kind of funny, but it's scary the first time you watch it. My dad likes to tell a story where he and his brother, my Uncle Joe, went to see this movie when they were teenagers and they ran out of the theater at that part. But yeah, the music's fantastic. Like, I think, like, I don't know, dealing with the themes of religion and like Gregory Peck having to like make this awful choice of like whether to kill this kid that he's raised as his son because the kid is evil. It's like, and then he struggles to do it at the end. It's just great. I love how it ends too. It ends with, Damien alive and he's just like holding the hand of the president of the United States. And like, I don't know. This whole movie's awesome. I love it. I don't know what else to say, but
There was a while where I had watched this and I probably just wasn't in the right mindset of it. I mean, this was like a rewatch. Like I had seen it before, but then rewatched it and I was like, it's like, is this pacing too slow? It just feels like it's so long for like what it is and stuff. And then rewatching it recently, like, just kind of sitting down and watching it and just for this, where I was like, I'm gonna have to talk about this. I was just like, wow, this movie is actually pretty incredible. Like when you talked about, the guy's head getting cut off, I actually, because I was had headphones in during that part and the music cue comes at you, and I was like, actually pretty scary, like, kind of a deal. Like I think maybe like talking about like the head rolling might look a little dated, but I feel like it holds up so well because of how they do it. It's like
Mhm.
you're looking at like the original Halloween, like some of it feels a little dated, but then you hear that music and you see, the sequences and you just really get in that mindset of breaking it all down and it's a very simple way and just, kind of surrender yourself to the movie. It's very creepy. And yeah, like you said, like, going through this, like this guy's life is kind of unraveling in front of him, and now he's learning about all this stuff, crazy shit that's happening around him, and his son that he's raised for a long time. Because Damien's he's not like a baby; he's a little kid, it's like what, 4 or 5, so he's raised him for a long time, and that's his son to him. And to learn that it's not his son was killed for him to raise this kid, and then now that kid is evil and you have to kill him, but he's like a child. Like that's, I mean, we just talked about how hard it was for us to watch other people kill children, and yet then we're like, thinking about the conflict of people telling you that this kid is evil. Like, are you really going to believe that? But then, it's kind of like a Scully and Mulder type of thing where it's like I'm seeing things happening in front of me, and I believe it, but also like, is it real? And am I just murdering a little boy? Like, this is just insane. So like, seeing him just like having this like moral dilemma and conscience, and going through like that whole end sequence after all, kind of like a whole mystery story that was happening, like unraveling what actually happened to him and this kid and the jackal and all of that stuff, and the puppet masters behind it, and then what's happening with the dog and Mrs. Baylock and all that. For him to go back with this plan to kill this kid, and he's still the whole time always questioning it, and the whole sequence of him like tricking the dog, locking the dog up, and then going to shave Damien's head, and find the 666. Just like, I love how it takes its time to do a lot of this stuff, and you're just kind of like wondering what the hell's going on. That dog's still barking, and then Miss Baylock attacks him, and he's got to like subdue her and then steal Damien. Then he gets shot by the cops, and it's just a wild ending. It's just so good and so well paced, and just the tension is always there. This is just one hell of a movie, and I'm just really glad I rewatched it, because I didn't really have as high of an opinion on it as I did before. And yeah, Gregory Peck's performance in this it's kind of an all-timer for like a horror movie. It's just like, especially, or just like Gregory Peck performances in general. Dude's just amazing. I mean, he's like what, America's favorite lawyer, right? And yeah, just he's all the moral stuff that he has going on in his head, just and mourning his wife. Like, he goes back, when he gets back there, like the first thing he does is kind of like go back to his bedroom and just like be really sad that his wife is now dead because of this, and his life is just done. Well, I mean, then literally later his life is done, but yeah, and then you have that creepy end with the kid smiling, which I'm still like, it's a really creepy thing. But then if you're gonna go into Omen 2 where he doesn't know, then it kind of feels a little bit weird.
This is one of the greats, one of my favorite horror movies. This is just fantastic through and through. They do so great of a job, like you guys have already talked so much about with the casting. All the actors, actresses do such a great job. Miss Baylock is just so freaking creepy in this, man. It's like perfect. It's awesome, man. It just really adds to the tension. She just does such a good job. I watched this when I was like a little bit younger, but it was after like I watched The Exorcist, so I wasn't like too scared by it, because The Exorcist I think is scarier. But I definitely remember liking this one a lot, like for what it was too, though. And it's one of my all-time favorites. Like I said, I like the scene and this is kind of where you have to defend this movie sort of from the first Omen, because the mother was the jackal, right? But they find you just kind of have to suspend it a little bit for this movie, of course. But if you can't tell like the gender of it, because they only find the skeleton in the graveyard next to the little baby skeleton with the hole in the skull, but you could probably just say they maybe misidentified what gender it was or what sex it was or whatever. It's been like, oh, it's a jackal, it has to be this. But having that explanation in the first Omen does kind of retcon a little bit. But if you kind of just suspend that for a little bit, I mean, that's the best I have for that. But it's still, yeah, it's kind of a stretch, but I don't know. You could easily look at a skeleton of a jackal and not know what the gender is. So, oh well. But I like this movie a lot, though. The graveyard scene is really interesting too. I like that a lot. I think it had a lot of really, really good plot points. I think the pacing was all right, maybe a little slow in times, but I think it all just adds to like the slow burn effect of it. So yeah. I think it's definitely watchable. I mean, I rewatched this a whole bunch of times, so it's definitely my favorite. It's the best one on this list.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like how you kind of compared a little bit to the Exorcist. I do feel like they're very similar especially in franchises. You have like some interesting ones, some really bad ones, and I mean maybe not really bad ones, but well in The Exorcist, I think Exorcist I would say has more bad ones. I feel like because Exorcist 2 Heretic is kind of unwatchable, but we did a ranking on The Exorcist if you want to go check that out. That one was really fun. But yeah, I think the Omen in some ways rivals The Exorcist. I kind of think what's the scarier score of the chanting or the tubular bells from The Exorcist, and they're both pretty kind of creepy. So that we did it. We ranked the Omen franchise. I know Carrie's very happy about that, and turns out James was also a fanboy, which I didn't really know that James was a fanboy, so that's really cool. And I'm, I guess, a little bit newer, but I think we're all kind of new to some of these movies at least. So really cool to be able to discuss these, and hopefully you've seen a lot of them. Because if not, then we kind of spoiled some stuff here. But that's par for the course. It's normally what we do. Okay, and so now we're all done ranking that stuff. So now, Carrie, do you have an overall ranking for us?
Yeah. Okay. So at number 6, Omen 4, The Awakening.
Makes sense.
At number 5, Omen 3, The Final Conflict. At number 4, Damien, Omen 2. Number 3, The Omen remake from 2006. At number 2, The First Omen. And at number 1, The Omen, the original.
That was my exact ranking.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. Maybe I just kind of swayed it that way. I used
That was my ranking too.
Oh, I was about to say I used my evil influence on the ranking.
Ah.
If you like this, please go check out a lot of our other rankings that we've done. We've done a lot of horror ones, like the Scream franchise, Evil Dead, things like that. Halloween. We did the Friday the 13th. We've Nightmare on Elm Street. We've done them all pretty much. I feel like so we're trying to find like other really good horror franchises do, especially in October, but really just kind of any old time. We just love horror. But also check out all of our other rankings. We do a lot of stuff. It's not just horror. So and we even did a Taylor Swift album ranking one time. James didn't do that one, but
I remember that one.
But we'll have to do like a band that James loves, or like maybe we'll rank the Fallout video game franchise or something like that, or just like all of Bethesda games. There you go. But yeah, you go check out all this other stuff. But yeah, go in the comments. Let us know what you think about any of these movies. Please, if you like this, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel for a lot more stuff. We're trying to do reviews, and Carrie and I are trying to review a lot of our physical media and talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer and a new show that we're doing, and just a lot of really cool stuff on the channel. And thank you, James. Thank you, Carrie. And thank you guys for watching. Oh, I almost forgot. Are you ranking with me?
It's all for you, Chad.
Nice.